Erik Spoelstra calls out Nikola Jovic after an inconsistent start to the season. How will Jovic respond? And Wes, did you even know what laissez faire even meant?
You know I don't speak German.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Become a Cookie Gang member. Join the everyday and become an everydayer by subscribing. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real Jam Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We'll talk about a surprising Norm Powell season so far, and whether or not there is any precedent for what we're seeing from him so far this season. We also have some news about Bam Adebayo and Herro that we're going to get to. But first, David, the doghouse got a new resident. It's Nikola Jovic. After another tough outing Wednesday night in that loss to the Cavs, Erik Spoelstra was asked about his disappointing start to the season, and he had a lot to say. It sounds a lot like what Spo was saying about Kel'el a few weeks ago. So here's some highlights from his answer. He said, quote, "To approach a practice day and a shoot-around and a film session like it's really important. He's made improvements with that. It's still not where it needs to be because he's young. He doesn't see that it's always important, but he's getting there. And then it's a matter of consistency. But you could see the possibilities when he has that attention and when things are important to him. Some of the things I'm just talking about are also his strengths. All of us, sometimes what your greatest strengths are, those things can also be your greatest weakness. He has the size, he has the vision, he can deliver passes. He also has this laissez-faire, like, oh, whatever. He doesn't feel pressure. That's sometimes where it's frustrating for his head coach on a shoot-around, and he's just going through the motions, but it's that mentality that also gives him that fearlessness to make plays in the clutch because he's not afraid of making the play." End quote. So again, big lengthy quote there, a lot to get to, but this is again Erik Spoelstra, another example of him coaching one of his young bigs very hard and using the media to get his message across, David.
Yeah, it's a little jarring though because I don't think either of us expected Spoelstra to call out Nico for a bad attitude or what he calls a laissez-faire attitude, maybe not taking things as seriously as he'd like him to. And I look back at the quote from Erik Spoelstra when the extension for Nico was just signed a month ago, and he said of Jovic, he's becoming more mature, more professional, and if you're hanging out with players much older than you, it just naturally happens. Regarding Jovic's tenure with the Serbian national team, I've seen growth from him over 3 years because of the standard that they've had in their program. So from 1 month ago saying I've seen growth, I've seen maturity, and then I don't know that he's actually taking film session and practices as seriously as we want him to. That's a pretty big departure. And I'm not sure how much of that is tied to what we've seen on the court, which hasn't been good. You and I have both said Nico needs to be more productive. He hasn't played very consistently. He's had his career high, but you can't coast off that. You cannot continue to just be a player who is in and out of games. Like, we don't see much production from him. And there are moments there where he's just not making an impact at all. And he's too skilled, too versatile, and too important to this team and what they're trying to accomplish this season to just take a game off where he's not going to be a factor at all.
I mean, you see this so much from young players, and this is the one thing that I keep trying to be cognizant of when we talk about Kel'el mostly, because we've spent most of our conversations in this regard talking about him, but also with Nico, right? Like, what Spo is talking about him being young and then spending time around older players, there is a point for most NBA players that they reach that maturity. And you hear that word thrown around in basketball all the time. Oh, he's got the maturity now. It's not as if these players are immature necessarily, right? It's not that they're all LaMelo Ball, on go-karts on roofs, and that's what they're spending their times doing. And I think the maturity word is almost thrown around in the wrong way. And even in this sense, it's not that Nikola Jovic is taking off shoot-arounds or not working hard in shoot-arounds. It's just that they're not hitting these super ultra crazy sicko mode levels of working hard and seriousness that you tend to hit in your mid-20s and when you start kind of hitting your prime. And for some players like Bam, it's just always there.
Yep.
You know, with Haslam, it was just always there. With D-Wade, it was just always there. Some guys, but those are the exceptions to the rule, right? Like Steph, that's the exception. LeBron, that's the exception. Most guys just need some time. And I think that's really important to remember with these guys is it's so hard, especially in that front, to play the front court position at a consistently high level in the NBA. David, just talk about centers, because that's what Nico has been playing a lot lately with Bam out, right? Is basically the backup 5 right now. How many centers do you feel like are in the NBA right now, regardless of age, that every single night you're like, that guy's a stabilizing force? I know exactly what I'm getting from that player every single night in a positive way.
I don't know, it doesn't feel like many. 3,
right?
Maybe 4.
You got Jokic, you got Bam. I guess Wembanyama at this point, just because the physical attributes are what they are.
Right.
And he's a sicko mode competitor guy too.
Sure.
I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but the list isn't super long. Like Ivica Zubac, you know, is going to bring you the requisite rebounding and rim protection. Ditto for Rudy Gobert, even though the offense is hit or miss for Gobert, but you know that the intent is like he's the ultimate floor raiser defensively in terms of rim protection. But I don't know that you get to 10 names, right? And you figure if you figure every NBA team has 2 centers that they're playing most nights. Evan Mobley is on that list. You figure every NBA team is basically playing 2 centers a night. So we're talking about 60 rotation centers in the league, and we're struggling to get to 10 that you feel every single night is bringing it in that way. And I think that speaks more to just how hard that position is to play in today's NBA than anything else.
Yeah, I get that. But I just don't think that I'm going to let Jovic off the hook in this regard. I think that he's capable of more, and I know that I'm not looking for him to be in his super prime, but I think we're kind of just overlooking the fact that he's been bluntly kind of bad, and he keeps taking that step back after summers of promise, and we keep going through the same routine with him of saying there's potential there because we recognize the potential, and both of us think that the skills are certainly there, and then he shows flashes, whether it's the course of the regular season or during the summer, and then he comes in and somehow just doesn't tie it all together. So I don't know if it's the laissez faire attitude that Spoelstra referred to, or if it's he hasn't hit his prime yet. But something is definitely missing. And Nico, frankly, he just needs to be better. And he's too skilled to not be that good. For Udonis Haslem, you know, obviously you have to be skilled to be at an NBA level. And an NBA player, certainly one with a 20-year career. But it wasn't like he wasn't ever as skilled or as versatile as Nikola Jovic is. Like Nico falls out of bed in the morning and he's just a much better player than Udonis Haslem is, or he's capable of being a much better player. So that's the difference. Is like he's got to have a better attitude. He's got to be able to find a way to be more dominant in order, because this is his career. This is his life that he's talking about here. And you can't afford to take that time off.
He got the extension. I don't think that this is necessarily the case of, hey, I got the money, I'm done. I don't really know what it is, and I don't know that psychoanalyzing Nikola Jovic on a podcast is necessarily the best content, but I mean, I'm just looking at his game log, and for the I'm not letting him off the hook. I'm just more trying to contextualize how hard it is to play that position and why Erik Spoelstra is being as hard on these guys as he is. Because the only way, Bam talks about this all the time, the only reason Bam got to where he is right now, or not the only reason, but Bam will even tell you a big reason why he is where he is today is because he was coached so hard by Spo. This is Spo trying to fast track these guys, right? And so I was just trying to contextualize what's going on there. You're absolutely right. He's got to be better. Whatever position he's playing, however many minutes, starting, coming off the bench, he has to be better. He's had 2 good games all year. Really one super impactful game against Portland where he had 29 points and 9 rebounds in 31 minutes in that win. And I don't really know what clicked in that game versus the other games where it just hasn't worked out, right? He has 2 points against Cleveland last night, 8 points on Monday night, then the 29-point game from Portland, and then it was 10 points against Charlotte. He had 5 points against Denver. We talked about how disappointing it was after that one on a 1-for-6 night. 7 points, 9 points, 0 points, 10 points, 6 points, 20 points, 9 points. It's not been good, right? Outside of 1.5 really strong games from him. And in that Portland game, did it click because these are the 2 fastest paced teams in the NBA, literally? When you look at pace, these are the 2 fastest teams, and he just found a home in that up-tempo style? Are the Heat almost not running enough for him in a weird way, even though they lead the league in pace? Does it take 2 teams pushing the tempo consistently for Nico to kind of get comfortable? Because if that's the case, that's not worth $14-15 million a year, right? So something else has to give here where Nico finds some sort of comfortability, finds a rhythm, and finds... We've heard Norm Powell talk about the confidence that he has to approach every single day with, too. And I wonder if some of this is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy where the confidence isn't necessarily there, and so the production and the work isn't there. I don't really know. Again, I hesitate to do the psychoanalysis thing, even though I keep doing it, but he has to be better.
Yeah, it kind of seems like there's this cycle of, he falls out of favor, or maybe he's not productive and he kind of gets in his own head a little bit, and then maybe that's where he starts taking his foot off the gas. Because I still wonder about the strange timing of a month ago. We're giving you tens of millions of dollars in an extension because we believe in you and know that you're capable of greatness, and then a month later saying, you know what, he needs to do better. He's not really approaching this the way we as an organization expect him to. So. Right. Something's happened there, and you just hope that Nico figures it out, because I think he's too good a player to have those kind of unproductive nights, and I think the versatility is such a big factor in what Miami's looking to accomplish this season. He can make this team even better than it's been, which has been pretty surprising.
One guy who is making this team better every single night, Norm Powell. I'm struggling to think of a time we've seen something quite like this before, though. David, we'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, my energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. You'll like using Drip Drop. It's just part of your daily routine at this point. You mix in a pack in the morning before the gym, or maybe during that midday slump, and you see exactly what I'm talking about. You know that a lot of doctors say it's better to start off every morning with a glass of water rather than a cup of coffee, because your body is mostly water. You have to stay hydrated. And with Drip Drop, you get the electrolytes you need to make your day start off smoothly. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. The holiday season's right around the corner. That means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. And I do mean everything. If you're looking to upgrade a space around the house, or maybe you just need a new piece of furniture, I was looking at some sofas on Wayfair. They've got such a great selection, and the prices are unbeatable. You'll find exactly what you're looking for at the price that you're looking to pay at Wayfair. Don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Norm Powell, 27 points for him against the Cavaliers, one of the few Heat players that showed up offensively in what was a bad loss. He called it a bad loss. We all agree it was a bad loss. We recapped that game in case you missed it. But he was not bad in that game, and he has not been bad very much all season long. David, you and I were talking about Norm Powell after the acquisition. They trade Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love for this guy. The Clippers don't want to sign him to the extension because they have different plans, right? They're basically biding their time as they transition out of this Kawhi Leonard, James Harden era. And so they didn't want to sign Powell to a long-term extension because they just didn't want to eat into that future cap space. And they didn't want an unhappy Norm Powell on their roster. So they trade him. And it's a three-way deal. They get John Collins, the Heat get Powell, and the Clippers, and the Clippers get, they got John Collins, and then Utah gets Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love. So we talked after that about how much of a steal that this trade was. And it was a steal, and we knew it was going to be a steal. Norm Powell is a good player. You and I have been watching Norm Powell for a long time. He's a good basketball player. What we also said is, don't expect another year like he had last year. Last year was a career year from him at 31 years old, shot the lights out, borderline all-star in the Western Conference. To have that kind of expectation from a guy, for that guy at this stage of his career is probably wrong. But if he's even like 80%, 70% of what he was with the Clippers this last season, and all you gave up was Love and Anderson for him, that's still a great trade. Well, we were wrong. He's better. He's actually better. He went from averaging 21.8 points per game last season to in 9 games this year, 24.8. 3 more points per game. He's doing it by still shooting the lights out from three-point range. He's shooting 46% from 3. He's getting to the line more than he's ever had, right? He's getting to the line 7.3 times per game, which is almost double his previous career high. He's shooting 47% overall. He's been a beacon of efficiency. He is at home in this new up-tempo offense, the quick decision-making, the go-to scoring ability. We talked the other day about just right out of the gate, he's one of the best first-quarter scorers in the league, and what that does to set the tone for the Heat early in these games, who have been one of the best first-quarter teams in the league this season, has been nothing short of essential, right? I can't remember, this is where I'm struggling, David, the last time we've seen anything quite like this for Norm Powell. A guy who at 32 years old has gone from sort of journeyman, nice kind of bit role player to 2 years in a row now, at the very least a borderline all-star, has a real case, a chance to make it if he keeps this up.
I'm trying to think of late career all-stars, and you really don't get much. Honestly, there is a comparison.
First-time all-stars?
Yes, there is a comparison, and you could make a case that might be Goran Dragic. But even then, even though he wasn't a one-time all-star when he was in his Miami tenure, he had been a third-team All-NBA in his last season in Phoenix before he was traded to Miami. But there was a long road before that where he was with Phoenix, then he was Houston and back to Phoenix. And it was just a long kind of winding path for him to figure out a path to success in the NBA, which you often see with international players. Something, by the way, as an aside, that maybe we didn't talk about enough with Nico. I don't think that's a factor, but sometimes the international style of play doesn't necessarily conflate to success at the NBA level. So maybe that might be a factor. But anyway, as far as Goran, I do think that he was kind of given a more of a career appreciation all-star selection, because I think the year he was actually picked as an all-star
2018
wasn't his best season. Yeah, it wasn't his best season.
But he was all NBA third team at 27 years old in Phoenix the year before he got traded.
Yeah. It's not the same. There's no apples to oranges thing. No.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about Dragic. I thought about James Harden, who was sixth man in Oklahoma City, then gets traded to. But Norm Powell doesn't. First of all, he was younger. Everybody knew that Harden. He was a lottery pick. Everybody knew what the ceiling was, and everybody just understood that the Thunder couldn't afford him at that time. And Norm Powell does not have the ceiling that Harden had. You know, obviously.
Norm's in his 11th season.
I know, this is crazy.
Nobody goes from being the bit player that he was in Toronto, and I know that was because that was a deep team with DeMar DeRozan, a completely different style of play, to being the 16th best scorer in the NBA, which is what he is this season. Like, that's a ridiculous leap. This is, and I've been covering this team and watching this team for years before that, decades now at this point, the shrewdest move that Pat Riley has ever made as a general manager of this team. Like, nothing comes close. There have been better trades in terms of getting superstars, Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway, things of that sort, but no move has been the better value. Yeah, sure. No move has been a better value than what we've seen from Norman Powell this season and what you had to give up to get him. We love Kyle Anderson. It was a great factor last year. Kevin Love, one of a kind, great locker room presence. It sucks that you had to trade him in order to get
No, it
Powell.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. You got Norm Powell. I'm sorry, it doesn't. See ya.
Well,
You got Norm Powell. It doesn't suck. No, this would be Norm Powell is 32 years old. Royce O'Neal is 32 years old. This would be like if Royce O'Neal was averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds per game all of a sudden. And you're just like, what? This guy is one of the best wings in the NBA now? What happened? I mean, that's what Norm Powell is. He's one of the best scoring guards in the league right now. So, again, I was going through like Victor Oladipo. Again, not quite right. He was a top pick, and then it was just sort of more situation than anything. I don't know. I thought about Jalen Brunson, but even Brunson leaving
change
the
of scenery.
leaving Dallas and going to New York and everybody, that was more of a Harden situation where you were kind of like, maybe you didn't expect that, like MVP caliber stuff from Harden or Brunson, but they had moments and they were young. And you're like, yeah, there's, with more opportunity, there's probably more growth. Norm Powell went from a 6-man kind of two-way guy in Toronto and then in Portland for a couple of years, and then with the Clippers, just sort of this Jordan Clarkson type of energy.
Not even. I think Clarkson is viewed still as a better player than what Norman Powell. Like I just did a preview of the Miami Heat with Locked On Raptors host Sean Woodley, and like he talked about Norm, like, you know, we love Norm around these here parts, but it wasn't like it was more about a frustration than anything else. Like Norm is capable of good things, but the defense, the playmaking is non-existent. Like, I don't want to say that he was almost glad that Powell wasn't on his team, but he didn't seem too bad about him not being on his team.
He averaged 8 points per game the year they won the championship. Like,
OG
he wasn't really
was
part
a
of that.
much bigger factor. It was a much bigger factor. Anatomy was a much bigger factor than Powell was.
So here's the closest thing I could find for precedent here. Kyle Lowry, Memphis, Houston, long winding road, ends up in Toronto in this nothing trade, and then becomes an anchor of that team alongside DeMar DeRozan. So I thought Kyle Lowry, totally different players, but just in terms of like, oh my God, now we have a foundational piece here, kind of. And even Lowry was younger than Powell at that point, but still, it felt similar. Here's really the closest thing I could find in thinking about this, and then I just went across sports because I couldn't find anything in the NBA. Chad Pennington. Do you remember when he came over from the Jets to the Dolphins at 30-something years old? And I think he was
Wildcat.
That was the year of the Wildcat. I think he finished second in MVP vote, like something crazy.
That's ridiculous, though.
What
a fluke season.
It was a fluke season, and I hope that's not what Norm Powell is. But that's the closest it can remind me of is Chad Pennington, this kind of cool, like role-playing, game-managing quarterback with the Jets, comes over to the Dolphins, and is an all-pro all of a sudden. It was the closest thing that I could find. Not exact, but it was the closest thing I can find. What a year from Norm Powell. Obviously extension eligible. If he keeps playing like this, I think he's going to make Miami's decision easier for them. Maybe that's a separate podcast, David, in terms of what you do with this extension. You obviously need to see what it looks like when Tyler Herro comes back. And there's a whole other, a ton of layers that we can get to with that. But we'll put a pin in that Kanish for now. Bam Adebayo. Will he play Friday night? We got some news. We'll come back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season's heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game even more exciting. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Because every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order. With Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you'll actually want. Haven't had a 50-point game in a while, I think, which means we're probably due. I would keep an eye on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Who else is the next player to pop for 50? Because you know there's always options. And you can get anything. Speaking of options, you can get anything delivered with DoorDash. It's not just food. You can get snacks, you can get drinks, headphones, ice, even socks, whatever you're looking for. You'll find it on DoorDash. They got you covered for late night highlights, last-minute watch parties, and double OT fuel-ups. Next time someone goes off for 50, use the promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 a day after a 50-point game with the promo code. Terms to apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I think there's a good chance that Norman Powell goes off for 30-plus points against the New York Knicks backcourt, so we'll be looking for that. He's got to be as productive as he has been all season long, and you know that backcourt loves to give up points. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The Miami Heat go to New York to play the Knicks on Friday night. We already know who is out. Tyler Herro, of course, is out. Bam Adebayo, also out. He is still being listed as day-to-day on the injury report with this left big toe sprain. Still no indication of when he eventually will come back, but he will not be coming back against the Knicks. So there's that. On the Knicks side of things, they don't have Jalen Brunson after he sprained his ankle. Was that Wednesday night? So a rough injury for Jalen Brunson. It looks like he's going to miss a significant amount of time here, but so the Knicks aren't going to have him. So it's going to be basically Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Miles McBride. You know, that's still a talented Knicks roster, but not having their number one guy on offense, that's going to be tough for the Knicks to overcome. But like I said, it's a talented roster with a lot of obstacles that the Heat are going to have to figure out, and they're going to have to do it without Bam, who was their main guy in guarding Karl-Anthony Towns. So now Kel'el Ware is going to have his work cut out for him. Yeah,
not good. Going back to the Knicks game that Miami won in Miami, it was Ware looking totally out of place. Now he's had a better opportunity.
Despite him. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He got pulled, played very little minutes there. It just did not look like he was capable of making that switch. Towns too fast, too good of a shooter from the perimeter. Ware not necessarily capable of that adjustment. With Mitchell Robinson out there, do they put Ware on Robinson and let Wiggins try to handle Cat?
Ooh, I like that. Yes. I mean, we have seen teams put their wings on Towns. The problem with that is it's going to be on Pelle Larsson to guard Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby potentially. That's given up some size there, but I guess you're not worried about OG taking you off the dribble and beating you that way. And Bridges
he can.
He's a straight line driver, but I'll live with OG Anunoby having the highest usage rate on the Knicks.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I think that's how you go. You go Ware kind of as a rover, paint protector, playing off of Robinson. Because, you know, he's not really a threat to score other than on lobs or anything around the rim. It's him providing help that way, protecting the paint. Wiggins on Cat, Larson on Anunoby.
You put Powell on Bridges.
Yeah.
Or you could put Davion on Bridges and muscle him around. But
I think that's probably a better matchup there.
And then you have Powell just chasing either they'll probably start McBride in Brunson's spot, and you can just have Powell chase him around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm concerned about the Karl-Anthony Towns. I would expect him to get his points.
I like Wiggins on Cat though. There's history there. That's fun.
I totally forgotten that.
Yeah.
I had totally forgotten those Minnesota years are a blur, but yes, you're right. Interesting. Yeah, because I don't think we've seen that matchup before. And Bam is like, he does such a good job. I mean, he's been torched in the past, but typically he does look forward to these matchups. Both Kentucky guys, there's some bad blood there. And that's not necessarily bad blood, but there's let's say a bit of a rivalry. Maybe an older brother, younger brother kind of thing going on. But either way, I think Bam does look forward to those matchups, and he is certainly capable. He's got the physical tools to challenge Towns. Wiggins can hold his own there because Towns not the most physical. He'll give up some points around the paint, but that's where Ware has to sag off and help. And I think you send a double, Davion kind of sagging off a little bit, maybe can play off of Bridges at that point, maybe go for the turnover because Cat is a little turnover prone. It could work out. And even if he tries to use his size against Wiggins, that could be an offensive foul in the making too. So yeah, I think a lot of it will be the emotions of the crowd. That Knicks crowd.
Well, if he tries to use his size on Wiggins ostensibly, then he's in the post, and that's when Kel'el starts to shade over, and you start doubling Cat in those instances.
Exactly.
And if they run that McBride, this is why we saw a lot of teams put their wings on Cat late last season, is because Tibbs basically only ran Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns pick and roll. And so they would just switch it, and the next thing you knew, you had your ace wing on Brunson, and Brunson had a hard time with that given his size. So they could do the same thing, right? Where if they're going to run that, then now Wiggins all of a sudden is on McBride or Clarkson or whoever's sort of the ball handler in that spot. Bridges is doing some of this stuff too. Wiggins can hold his own on all of those things. So I like it. I think that's a great shout.
You would start off Josh Hart, would you?
I don't know that you start Josh Hart. If you
put Bridges at the point, I mean, that really.
I mean, if you're without Brunson, can you really afford to start Hart if you're the Knicks? Like, I feel like you need offense in there in that lineup if you're missing Brunson.
Yeah.
But maybe. I mean, we'll see. The other battleground here, as always, pace. The Knicks are one of the slower teams in the league. The Heat are obviously where they're at. The Heat are going to try to set the tempo early in this game. The Knicks are going to try to set the physicality early in this game, especially with Bam out. That's a good offensive rebounding team, especially when Mitchell Robinson is on the court, which he is to start these games. So it's one of those things. These are the two battlegrounds we're watching every single night, David. Can the Heat allow their pace to overcome the natural deficiencies that they're going to have on the glass? So we'll see what happens Friday night at Madison Square Garden. That'll do it for us today. This has been Locked On Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.